If you are not happy and you are not feeling fulfilled, either you need to change or you need to change your environment and you need to figure out which one it is. And I was just like, that was the moment of, I need to change my environment.
It brings me to another yeah, but you had. You said, what if I fail? So, okay. What if you fail? What was that a yeah, but about?
Yeah, this happened fairly recently. It was kind of interesting as I was thinking and reflecting on the yeah, but, and I was just like, so late last year, I was promoted to take over the EMEA market. So I have all of the Americas and I now have EMEA. And so now I have a global team. And I remember having a moment of panic, like, can I do this? Like, can I actually do this? Like, what if I bomb? Like, what if they hate me? What if this turns out to be like a total disaster? And just having that moment of like anxiety, like, oh my God, I asked for this. What was I thinking? Like, I'm not ready to do this. And you just have this moment of just sheer fear, like this could really go south quickly. And I was just like, okay, well, so if I fail, like, all right, how badly will I fail? Let's start there. And then at the end of the day, what can I learn if I fail? Or I'm going to screw things up. I know I am. How do I manage through that? Like, I'm not going to be culturally correct on everything. I'm sure I'm going to say things that will offend somebody, but I need to learn. And so I think just shifting the way I thought about it is, why am I concerned that I'm going to fail? I know myself enough to know that I won't let myself fail. But what's the worst thing that can happen if I do fail? And really kind of putting that into perspective. And so that's something that I really try to encourage with my team is, it's okay to take risks. It's okay to make mistakes. Like that's how you learn. And if things don't go according to plan, okay, well, what are you going to do differently next time? And so I think that's something it's so easy to tell other people what to do. And then when the moment hits you, you're like, oh crap, what do I do? I don't even know how to manage this right now. And so that's the thing where I again kind of go back to what do I want people to know about me is being authentic and sincere and genuinely helping people understand that you're coming from a good place. And if you screw something up, it's not because you meant to do that. It just happened, and how can you be better moving forward? And I think that's the beauty of failure, quite honestly, is it teaches you some really valuable lessons.
And that's a great way to put it. Is we talk about that in the book, Susie. Just it's a learning experience because if you fail forward, you learn from it. You actually can expose it to other people and be like, "Hey, this is what I learned."
Mhm.
And people are like, "What? Hold on, expose your failures?" You're like, "Well, it's public. Everybody knew that this didn't go well."
Right.
So you might as well make it an opportunity to help your people understand what not to do. Yeah, but that's so difficult. We want to hide it. And I was like, some things can't be hidden. And some
Mhm.
things that are hidden, if they come out to light, it actually shows what kind of resilient leader you are. Because especially in America, and you know this
Yeah.
worldwide, failure looks completely different.
Oh,
You fail, right?
absolutely.
If you fail in a certain in other countries, it is game over, right?
Absolutely.
So knowing, I mean, how is failure in the Middle East? How is that looked at, or in Asia, or how is?
Oh, yeah, you don't. You just don't. You don't fail. Like you just, I mean, if an A is not good enough, you just don't fail.
So
Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's the environment that we live in. I mean, I work for a Japanese parented company, and failure is frowned upon, but also failure can be seen as driving innovation. So I think it is, where do you fail? How do you fail? Do you fail fast? Do you learn from it? So I think it's contextualizing failure, and like in the safety of our tires, we cannot fail in the safety of and the quality of our tires. But if we make a mistake on a report by a decimal or something, how traumatic is that? Well, depends. But I think it's, or if we try something and it doesn't work, okay, well, that's all right within that context. So you have to know, where is failure permissible and where is it not, and where can you learn, and how quickly can you learn from that failure. And so I think that's the key is failure can look very different in very different ways, but accepting that there's going to be failure is just part of the learning process. I think the more comfortable we can get with that, the quite honestly, the faster we progress.
And as I tell my clients, non-fatal errors are the ones where we talk about it, because failure can mean falling short of a number, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all or none. It's like either we make it or we don't. And I was like, is that failure, or is that a scale of completion? Which goes back to if they're 80% ready and I didn't get them 100% ready to take this new, is that a failure? And it sounds like you turned it into an opportunity to go, even
Absolutely.
if we taught them everything for this succession planning, will they really know it until they actually take the role and actually go? And I know that you also like design and things, and my wife as well. And she's like, until you live in a home, if you furnish it immediately, you might make a mistake because you're realizing, oh, now that I've lived in it and I see it and I understand it, I wouldn't have put that here. I wouldn't have changed that. So sometimes what I'm hearing again from you and others is like, you got to go and actually experience it and at least have version one. You
Yeah,
have to at least try and move forward and do that.
exactly.
And you mentioned something early on that I want to go back to, Susie. It's one of the things we talk about in the book is people changing careers at a point in their life. And we've seen through research in their 40s, some people do change their careers. Can you tell me about, let's go back to that career part. What made you want to change your career, and around what age were you at?
No, it's a great question. I was probably late 30s,
Mm-hmm.
approaching 40, and I had been in sales the majority of my career. I'd always been in some type of sales role or something related to sales. And I lived out of a suitcase, literally. You leave Monday, you come back Friday, then you just turn around and do. I remember even packing. I had a brown week and a black week, so I would just alternate my clothing. And I had just gotten to a point where I was just like, ugh, I just don't love this anymore. Like, I don't love waking up and living and dying by the numbers. I don't love just everything is you're a hero yesterday, you're a zero today. Like, everything was just, all of that. And I was just like, what do I really love about my job? And I think when the light bulb went off, I was actually sitting in a leadership development program, and I was just mesmerized by the facilitator and how he just had everybody in the palm of his hand, and he was working with us on building our leadership capability. And I remember just it was like it was like a just an out of body experience. After the class, I just floated over to him and I was like, I want to do what you do. It's like, okay, that's great. So he was a great friend, and it really kind of coached me through like, how do you break into HR? And it was really that moment where I just saw the impact he was having, and I was like, you know what, running from store to store to store to store and having a day with this person, a day with that person, a day with that person, does it make an impact? Absolutely. But I don't get to really savor the moments where you see those aha moments and you see the people change. They physically change in front of you because you see them just become aware, like, I'm a really bad leader. I need to do more of this, or whatever the case may be. And so that was really the moment of truth. And it was a difficult decision because I was on a trajectory to be a divisional vice president. And what I remember telling my boss, like, I want to go to HR. And he looked at me like I had three heads, like, what? And so I had to kind of start my career over again. I took a couple of steps back and to learn the discipline and just really start to kind of build that muscle, and have not looked back ever since. And it was just that moment where you realize, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. I don't like what I'm doing. When you wake up in the morning and you're like, ugh, it's another day, then something's got to change. And I was taught many years ago from a very wise person. They're like, if if you are not happy and you are not feeling fulfilled, either you need to change or you need to change your environment, and you need to figure out which one it is. And I was just like, that was the moment of, I need to change my environment.
Hi, I'm Marc A. Wolf, author of Yeah, But. Perspectives can shape your success or sabotage it. However, you're not alone in facing self-doubt. Even tennis legend Andre Agassi, once the world's top-rated player, admitted, yeah, but I don't feel successful. My book, Yeah But, helps shift your perspective with 15 standalone chapters and a quick finder to navigate excuses like this. Ready to define success and have no more yeah buts? Click the show note link today and get your copy from Amazon or Apple Books. And that's bold to be able to take a step back and change and do that. I mean, you're not 20. Like you said, you were late 30s, early 40s. So, Susie, and you've worked ever since for global companies, pretty much. Tell me more about how different it is working for companies where you have people like around the world, cultures, different leaders, different languages. How do you traverse that as a leader?
Well, this is where I think I have a little bit of an advantage having grown up in a multicultural home. And, we always had different cultures around us and people from France or Egypt or wherever, just different parts of the world. And I have to credit my grandmother. She always had a wide network of very diverse friends. And so growing up around that, I never knew what non-diversity was because I grew up around it. So I had a real appreciation for other cultures, other experiences. And I think stepping into a situation where you're leading different cultures, it's a little bit different because you have to be super hypersensitive to how does what I'm saying translate? How does it land? And this is where I think, again, being vulnerable, being open, being okay with screwing some things up at times. And when you lead a global team, you gain so much, such a wealth of knowledge and just richness because nothing, to me, the most exciting thing in the world is to go experience other cultures, other foods, other ways of thinking. And it was interesting when I first uh, got the role and I took over EMEA. I was just like, wow, you don't really realize the differences between Eastern Europe and Western Europe until you're really immersed in those cultures and how they approach things. And they're much more direct than we are. And I was kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that there was going to be so much direct conversation, but it was refreshing too, because you know where you stand, but there's no ambiguity there. So there's definitely, you have to be culturally sensitive. You have to realize what translates, what doesn't, and really work together to learn. And I think my team has taught me more than I could probably ever teach them. And it's being open to that. And I think that's the beauty of having all of the diverse cultures and, you know, capabilities and thought processes, and just it's just really, to me, it makes the job even more exciting because you've just added some flavor and some spice to the work, quite honestly.
But you've had the blessing of being able to be born into a culture of understanding because you grew up in it. But a lot of people, especially Americans, don't have that opportunity because they don't, especially in the South.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people here that have only been Southerners. I mean, being from New Jersey, we had that opportunity. I wasn't European. I mean, I'm half Italian, but I still had so many cultures around me constantly that you had different foods and you had different languages and you had different people in your classes and everything else. And even the university I went to had foreign students that would come specifically for our university. So we had that. But what do you tell some of the people that are coming and working and doing this and they haven't had exposure?
Yeah.
What do they do to try to get spun up quickly?
Yeah, I always think the best way to do that is when you don't know, or something's foreign to you, whether it's a culture or anything, is be curious. Really be curious and explore and ask questions and learn. Don't go in with your point of view, assuming that you're going to change what they think to your point of view. Be genuinely open and curious and try to understand, like seek to understand. I think that's the two key pieces of advice that I would give. Is it's so easy, and I find myself, I step into this oftentimes. It's like, well, it's the America's way. We're going to do it this way. Well, that may not be the right way. And again, I go back to, we're much smarter when you bring all of the ideas to the table. So that curiosity factor is so critical, because I think it's very easy to kind of look at everything from your lens But if you just take the time to seek to understand and be curious and ask questions and, well, why is this? And how is this? And it's so interesting, even working on some of these global projects, wording is so critical. And one word in one culture can have a very different meaning in another culture. And really trying to understand why is that? How does that happen? How do we find something that's common, that's understood? And I think if you don't stop and ask the questions and be curious, you can really step into some bad stuff and really hurt people. And I think if you genuinely care about who you're working with and who you're engaging with, and you genuinely want to be your most productive, take the time to learn, take the time to be curious, take the time to explore together. And I think that's what can really help somebody accelerate that journey to unification, quite honestly.
And that's great advice. Be curious, and it takes a humility to do that because people are embarrassed to ask questions. But before you knew something, you had to ask or learn or
Yeah.
research. So just being able to do it. So that leads me to the question. So take your age. You don't have to tell us what it is. Cut it in half. And what would you ask your? What would you give advice to somebody or yourself back at that age? What do you wish you knew at half your age that you should share to others?
Yeah, I really thought about this question a lot because I was like, gosh, what would I tell my younger self? And I think probably I would tell myself, my younger self, don't doubt yourself. You can do whatever you want to do and you can achieve it. I think parenting has taken a different turn over the years in terms of really helping your kids feel like they can conquer the world. And I think we need to take some of that into our adult life. There's a fine line. You don't want to be arrogant, but at the same time too, you want to have that confidence in terms of don't doubt yourself and don't let others make you doubt yourself. Build that strong internal core to know what you're capable of, and don't let others erode what you know you have in you, and really protect that, because I think that is so critically important. And I think if I had a daughter that was half my age at this point, I would tell her, first, don't get married till you're 40. But second, aside from that, I would tell her, that's a completely separate topic. I would tell her, like, you can do whatever you want, but the most important thing is that you have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, then that's where everything starts to fall apart. So you have to know that you have this unwavering capability and confidence in yourself, that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve, and don't let anyone take that away from you.
That's great advice. Yeah, I try to tell my daughters not to get married till they're 40 too. Uh, the and Susie, talk about believing. So let's throw this out. So tell me something about what you've accomplished, what you've done, and I want you to take all the humility away. I just want you to be braggadocious here, but tell us something you've done that you're significantly proud of, and something that people really need to know that you did, and share it.
Yeah, I think something that I'm most proud of is, and this goes back to, can I do this from where I came from? I remember going off to college with literally $2,500, and I was just like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, I don't know if this is going to happen for me. But I wanted a college degree so badly because my mother didn't have one, my aunt didn't have one, and I was determined to get a college degree. And I literally had $2,500, and I went off to school, and I was just like, I didn't know how I was going to pay for school. I was like, I'll figure it out. And I remember calling my grandmother at one point, and I was like, I'm out of money. And she's like, well, go get a job. And I was just like, well, I've got a job. She's like, well, get another one. So typical Middle Eastern guidance. And I was like, got it. Okay. So I went and got another job. I actually worked 3 jobs to put myself through school. But getting that diploma was like one of the proudest moments in my life, because I was like, I did this. I totally did this. There was nobody that helped me. Nobody gave me a helping hand. I earned this degree every step of the way. And to me, I feel like that was just, I mean, I didn't think I could do it, and I did it, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was like, I'm going to accomplish this. It might take me longer, but I'm going to do it. And I was so proud of myself in that moment, and I'm still very proud of myself. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, see, those 3 jobs paid off. But yeah, I think that's probably, if I had to sum up my entire accomplishments, getting a college degree, which was unheard of in my family, quite honestly, aside for the boys, as a female was a pretty big deal.
Susie, thank you so much. You've shared so much about your story. And I know within your story, people are going to see themselves, right? First generation college, being a female, overcoming adversity, not believing you could do it, looking through and saying, not where I'm from, and not being sure, looking for external help. I mean, Susie, you covered so many different areas that I know, just like with Yeah, but they can be overcome. And
Yeah.
that's why these stories are here, to show people that actually have, and not just people that you see on the news every day or you
Right.
see in a sports venue, but people that actually the products they make, they've actually are only 1 degree away from you.
Yeah.
I
That's true.
mean, you have such a global touch from glasses in the past and Dollar General and then being in Bridgestone. I think people forget that they have a reach that literally something that someone's driving on or doing, you help make happen.
I'm
And
pretty lucky in that regard. But no, and thank you, Mark, for creating this experience to be able to share with others. And hopefully it does help others find their way too.
and it will, because there are things that people are going to hear if they really listen, and things they can act on because of these conversations. So Susie, we're going to put in the show notes some ways to contact you and some other ways they have information they want to know about Bridgestone or other things. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Yeah But podcast. If today's episode provided valuable perspective on how to overcome the excuses that can hold you back, let us know in the comments. Remember, it's not about the yeah buts. It's about finding ways to live, learn, and lead better every day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little kick to get past their yeah buts. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And for even more tips, connect with me at markawolf.com/podcast or on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep challenging those excuses and keep moving forward.